There is one habit that Marcus Aurelius practiced on the battlefield, that Epictetus practiced in chains, and that Seneca practiced in the corridors of one of the most dangerous political courts in human history. They did not write about it in bold letters. They did not shout it from temple steps. In fact, the habit itself almost defies announcement, because its very nature is quiet. It is the discipline of turning inward, of focusing on yourself, of staying powerfully, deliberately, completely silent. And today, we are going to go deep into exactly what that means. Not surface-level motivational deep. Philosophically, psychologically, practically deep. Because this one idea, practiced consistently for over 2,000 years, has the capacity to reshape the entire trajectory of your life. But first, I want you to think about the last 24 hours. How many opinions did you offer that nobody asked for? How many arguments pulled you in that had nothing to do with your actual goals? How many times did you refresh a feed, react to something, get pulled into a comment section, or feel that slow drain of energy that comes from caring about things you cannot control? This is not an accident. We live inside an economy of attention. Your focus, your mental energy, your capacity to think clearly, these are the most valuable things you own. And there is an entire architecture of technology, media, and social pressure specifically designed to extract them from you, quietly, constantly, and with your full cooperation. The Stoics saw this coming. Not the technology, but the dynamic. The ancient world had its own version of it. Political gossip, public spectacle, the endless noise of the forum. And their response to it was the same response that will serve you now. Go inward. Go silent. Protect what is yours. Marcus Aurelius put it with the kind of bluntness that only comes from someone who has actually tested an idea against real life. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." 2,000 years. And that sentence still lands like cold water. Because the battle has always been the same. Not a battle against other people. Not against circumstances. The battle for your own mind. For your attention. For the quality of your inner life. That is the battle this video is about. And I want to warn you before we go further. Some of what we are going to cover will sit uncomfortably against what modern culture tells you to do. Because the culture tells you to share everything. To announce yourself. To react quickly, loudly, and publicly. To stay visible at all costs. Stoicism says the opposite. And the evidence, both ancient and modern, is overwhelmingly on the side of Stoicism. So stay with this. Because by the end, the way you think about silence, about self-focus, about where your energy belongs, will not be the same as when you started. Let me tell you about a man named Epictetus. He was born a slave. Not poor. Not disadvantaged. A slave, meaning he had no legal right to his own body, his own movement, his own future. He owned nothing. He could be bought and sold at the convenience of someone else's finances. His master, a man named Epictetus, once grabbed Epictetus by the leg and began twisting it. According to the historical accounts, Epictetus said, calmly, almost conversationally, "You are going to break it." The master kept twisting. The leg broke, and Epictetus said, "Did I not tell you it would break?" No rage, no begging, no collapse into victimhood, just observation, just presence, just the quiet, almost terrifying mastery of a man who had decided, at some fundamental level, that the world could own his body, but it would never own his mind. Epictetus went on to become one of the most influential philosophers in Western history. Emperors studied him. His students went on to transform entire disciplines. His words still carry weight 20 centuries later. And his core teaching, the one he returned to again and again, was this: men are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about things. Read that again slowly. The disturbance is never actually outside you. It originates inside you, in the story you tell yourself about what has happened, what it means, and what it says about who you are. And until you understand that, genuinely, all the way down, You will keep handing your peace of mind to whoever or whatever manages to press the right button on any given day. This is the first and most foundational principle of Stoic philosophy, not as an abstract idea, as a lived, practiced, daily reality. The question it raises is practical and immediate. What does it actually look like to focus on yourself? What does staying silent genuinely require? Why is that silence so much more powerful than anything you could say? We are going to answer that through 5 Stoic principles, not as a list, as a progression, each one building on the last, until by the end you have not just information but a framework you can actually use. Most people misunderstand Stoic silence. They picture a cold man, emotionally unavailable, locked behind a wall of indifference, a kind of philosophical robot that refuses to feel anything and calls it strength. That is not what the Stoics were doing, not even close. Stoic silence is not the absence of emotion. It is the mastery of it. It is the conscious, deliberate decision to not speak, not because you have nothing to say, but because you understand that your words carry real weight and you refuse to spend them carelessly. There is a difference between silence born from fear and silence born from wisdom. Fear-based silence shrinks you. Wisdom-based silence expands you. The Stoics were obsessed with the second kind. Principle 1. Speak less. Mean more. Seneca spent decades watching powerful people destroy themselves with words. Not enemies. Themselves. Wealthy senators who talked their way into political exile. Generals who bragged their way into disgrace. Men of enormous capability who burned through their credibility one careless statement at a time. He wrote about it in his letters with a kind of weary precision, like a doctor who keeps seeing the same preventable illness. And his prescription was always the same. Retire into yourself as much as you can. Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. Notice what he is actually saying. Not just talk less. Retire inward. Be selective. Guard access to your energy like it is a finite resource, because it is. Think about the conversations you have had in the past month that left you feeling drained. Pulled into drama that had nothing to do with your goals. Forced into opinions you did not actually hold just to keep the peace. Reactive, exhausting exchanges that generated heat but no light. Now ask yourself an honest question. What would your mental landscape look like if you simply did not engage with those conversations? Not out of cruelty, not out of arrogance, out of genuine respect for your own capacity to show up fully in the interactions that actually matter. This is not social withdrawal. It is energy management at the level the Stoics practiced it. And the people around you, the ones worth keeping, will feel the difference when you show up as someone who has protected their peace rather than scattered it across 100 meaningless exchanges. Principle 2. Your silence is your strength. There is a psychological principle that modern research has confirmed and the Stoics understood intuitively 2,000 years ago. Reactive people are predictable, and predictable people are controllable. The moment you argue back automatically, defend yourself reflexively, explain your choices to anyone who questions them, you have handed over something valuable. You have shown exactly which buttons to press. You have made yourself legible to anyone who wants to manage or manipulate you. Marcus Aurelius was emperor of Rome. He was surrounded by people who wanted things from him, rivals with hidden agendas, senators running political calculations, enemies testing for weakness. And his primary defense was almost absurdly simple. He did not react. He wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." Not to argue back, not to expose the other person, not to win the moment, just to continue being who he was, disciplined, clear, focused, and let the quality of his life be the only statement that needed making. That is what Stoic silence looks like in practice. Not passivity. Not weakness, a kind of gravitational stability that cannot be moved by whatever the weather of the moment happens to be. The person who reacts to everything controls nothing. The person who controls their reactions controls everything that actually matters. Principle 3. The dichotomy of control. This is the concept Epictetus built his entire philosophy around. And once it genuinely lands, not as an idea, but as a felt understanding, it changes the way you move through every single day. Here it is. Some things are within your control. Some things are not. Simple to say, remarkably hard to actually live. Because the brain does not naturally sort reality this way. It treats everything as equally urgent, equally threatening, equally worthy of your mental energy. The opinion of a stranger online gets the same neurological response as a genuine threat to your well-being. And most people spend their entire lives running that system on default. What is actually within your control? Your thinking, your effort, your choices, your response to what happens to you, how you treat people, what you practice, what you build. What is not within your control? Other people's opinions of you, the economy, your boss's mood, whether the algorithm rewards your work, whether someone likes you back, the behavior of anyone who is not you. Epictetus wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Now here is where it gets genuinely important. Research in modern psychology consistently shows that a primary driver of anxiety is the feeling of helplessness, the sense that things are happening to you and you have no agency over them. And the most reliable antidote is not willpower or positive thinking. It is accurately identifying what you can and cannot control and deliberately redirecting your energy toward the former. The Stoics were practicing evidence-based cognitive therapy 2 millennia before the field existed. Most people spend roughly 80% of their mental energy on things they cannot change. Other people's opinions, past decisions, circumstances they did not choose. And then they genuinely wonder why they feel exhausted, stuck, and powerless. Focusing on yourself in the Stoic sense means reclaiming that 80%, not by becoming indifferent to the world, but by becoming honest about where your energy can actually do something, and then directing it there with everything you have. Late in his life, Seneca did something that stunned the people around him. After decades at the center of Roman political life, with wealth, influence, and the ear of an emperor, he stepped back from all of it. He gave up his position, his social standing, a significant portion of his fortune, and spent his final years writing, thinking, and working on his own character. He wrote about that decision with unusual clarity. Withdraw into yourself to the extent you can. Associate with those who will make you a better person. Admit only the worthy into your company. He understood something that most people discover too late if they discover it at all. Your inner world is the only world you truly own. And the person who cultivates it with real discipline and intention will eventually and inevitably transform everything around them. There is a common objection that comes up whenever someone starts talking about self-focus. It sounds selfish. It sounds like withdrawal, like pulling back from responsibility and calling it philosophy. I want to address that directly because the Stoics thought about this carefully, and what they concluded is almost the opposite of what you might expect. There is an old analogy about the oxygen mask on an airplane. They always tell you to put your own mask on before helping others. Not because your life matters more, but because if you lose consciousness, you cannot help anyone at all. The Stoics understood this at a level that goes well beyond the practical. A person who is scattered, reactive, running on empty, and living at the mercy of every external opinion cannot genuinely contribute to anyone. They can perform contribution, but performance and the real thing are not the same. A person who has done the inner work, who has built their character through genuine discipline, who has developed the capacity to stay calm when the world is not, that person becomes an anchor. Not because they talk about being stable, but because they actually are. Marcus Aurelius called this the inner retreat. He wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Principle 4. Become a lighthouse, not a mirror. Most people are mirrors. They reflect back whatever the world sends them. Someone is angry at them, they get angry back. Someone praises them, they soar. Someone criticizes them, they either collapse or explode. Their emotional state is determined entirely by external input, which means it is determined by everyone except themselves. A lighthouse does not do that. A lighthouse does not react to the storm. It does not adjust its beam based on the weather. It does not move when the waves crash. It simply shines steadily, reliably, from the same fixed point, and in doing so it helps people find their way. When you do the inner work consistently, when you focus on your own growth and character with genuine seriousness, you become that lighthouse. The people around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, they feel the stability you carry. They lean on it without even being able to explain why. This is the Stoic paradox of self-focus. The more deeply and honestly you invest in your own development, the more powerfully and genuinely you serve the people around you. The hidden cost of living for approval. Be honest with yourself for a moment. How much of your daily energy is going toward managing what other people think of you? The way you present yourself online. The opinions you perform rather than hold. The achievements you announce because silence feels too risky. The people you pretend to agree with because disagreement feels too expensive. All of that costs something. And the cost is paid in the currency of your actual self. Epictetus was relentless about this. He watched educated, capable, well-meaning people destroy their inner peace, trying to control something that was never theirs to control, their reputation in other people's minds. And his prescription never changed. Come back to yourself. Decide who you are. Then live that, quietly, without announcement, without waiting for the world to ratify it. First say to yourself what you would be. Then do what you have to do. The person who requires no one's validation is the freest person in any room they walk into. Philosophy without practice is just decoration. The Stoics were, above everything else, practitioners. They tested their ideas in real conditions, not in comfortable seminar rooms, but in war, in exile, in chains, in the corridors of genuinely dangerous power. So let's get specific about what these principles actually look like in your daily life. Practice 1. The morning silence protocol. Before the palace filled with petitioners, before the weight of the empire arrived at his door, Marcus Aurelius sat and wrote. His meditations were not composed for publication. They were his private morning practice, a daily conversation with himself, a recalibration of his values before the world had a chance to pull him off course. For the first 20 minutes after you wake up, do not touch your phone. Do not check messages. Do not let the world's agenda be the first thing that shapes your thinking. Instead, write 3 things. Who you want to be today, what you are genuinely grateful for, one specific thing within your control that you will act on. This is not a productivity hack. It is an identity practice. You are deciding who you are before the day tries to decide for you. Practice 2. The selective silence rule. Seneca asked 3 questions before speaking in any significant situation. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? Does it serve something real? If the answer to all 3 was not yes, he stayed silent. Try this for 1 day. Just 1. Before you respond in any conversation, whether in person, by text, or online, pause and run those 3 questions. Notice how many of your usual responses do not pass the test. Notice what changes in your relationships and your own internal state when you hold back what does not need to be said. Practice 3. Voluntary discomfort. This one surprises people. The Stoics regularly chose discomfort deliberately. Simple meals instead of feasts. Hard surfaces instead of soft beds. Periods without the things they had grown to depend on. Not as punishment, as training. Because comfort is a chain. When you are attached to it, anything that threatens it owns you. When you have voluntarily gone without something and come out the other side, you know at a deep level that you can handle discomfort. That knowledge is a form of freedom that cannot be taken from you. Once a week, practice 1 deliberate discomfort. A full day without screens. A meal of just bread and water. A cold shower held for 30 seconds past the point where you want to stop. These are not about suffering. They are about proving to yourself, repeatedly, that you are capable of more than ease requires of you. Practice 4. The evening audit. Every evening, review the day, not to judge yourself, to understand yourself. 3 questions. Where did I lose control of my response to something? Where did I speak when silence would have served better? Where did I look outward for something I should have found within? Self-knowledge is not the same as self-criticism. Epictetus was clear about this. You examine not to punish, but to calibrate. And calibration, done consistently, is how character is actually built. Practice 5. The inner retreat. Whenever the external world becomes loud, before you react, before you speak, before you engage with whatever is demanding your attention, take 3 slow breaths and return to yourself. 3 seconds. That pause is not hesitation. It is the space where choice lives. It is the difference between responding from your values and reacting from your nervous system. Marcus Aurelius came back to this idea again and again. The inner retreat is always available. Regardless of what is happening outside, you can always return to the quiet of your own clarity. That capacity, practiced daily, becomes one of the most reliable things you own. I want to be honest with you about something before we close. When you start actually living this, when you start focusing inward and staying silent in situations where you used to react, it is not going to feel powerful at first. It is going to feel strange, possibly uncomfortable, because the people in your life have built a model of you. They know which buttons produce which responses. They know how to get a reaction, and they have likely come to rely on that predictability without realizing it. When you stop reacting on cue, some people will be confused. Some will push harder, looking for the reaction that used to be automatic. Some will interpret your silence as coldness, your focus as aloofness. Let them find their footing, because here is what is going to happen inside you if you stay with this. Your anxiety will decrease, not because your problems disappear, but because you stop fighting battles that were never yours to fight in the first place. The cognitive load of managing everyone else's emotional weather is enormous, and you have been carrying it so long you stopped noticing the weight. Your focus will sharpen when you stop giving your attention to everything that asks for it and start directing it toward what actually builds something. The quality of your work changes, not gradually, noticeably. Your relationships will deepen. This one surprises people. When you become more selective about who gets your real energy, the connections you do invest in become something different. Because you are showing up as yourself rather than as a performance designed to avoid disapproval. And perhaps most significantly, you will begin to trust your own voice again. The constant noise of other people's opinions will quiet. And in that silence, you will hear something that may have been drowned out for a long time. Yourself, clearly. Perhaps for the first time in years. 2,000 years ago, a man born into slavery, with a broken leg and no legal rights, changed the course of Western philosophy through the disciplined mastery of his own mind. An emperor of the most powerful empire on earth wrestled with his own character every morning in journals that were never meant to be published. A wealthy advisor walked away from power and status to spend his final years becoming who he was actually meant to be. None of them had the distractions you face, but the battle they fought was identical to yours. The battle for their own attention, their own peace, their own capacity to live from the inside out rather than from the outside in. And their answer was the same answer available to you right now. Focus on yourself, not obsessively, not in isolation, but deliberately, honestly, and with the quiet confidence of someone who has decided that their inner life is worth protecting. Stay silent, not permanently, strategically. Save your words for what deserves them. Save your energy for what builds something real. Save your attention for what transforms rather than what merely stimulates. Because the final truth the Stoics want you to understand is this: your life is not just about you, but it starts with you. And if you are scattered, reactive, and living at the mercy of every opinion and event that comes your way, you cannot be what you are meant to be for yourself or for anyone else. So begin today, quietly, without announcement. That is exactly how the best things are built.